Hey, party people, welcome, welcome. It's Desiree Stafford. I'm super excited to be here with you today because we're talking about a fantastic topic, if you ask my opinion, and it's really about how you can close more 5- and 6-figure sales, okay? So this is for you if you're struggling to close your higher end programs, right? So typically people who come to work with me are already charging higher end, but like on the low end. So they're charging like maybe $1,000 to maybe $3,000 and wanting to charge more, basically wanting to make more money and have a greater impact, but not burn themselves out, not work themselves into exhaustion. So what I teach is really how to raise your fees, how to call in those higher level clients or your next level clients, and then how to close them into the sale so that you can, help them experience the transformation that only you can help them facilitate for them, right? So that's what we're talking about today, because if you don't make the sales, then obviously you can't do your best work in the world, right? And you can't help people get the kind of results that can literally change their lives, their businesses, their relationships, their health, anything that you actually support them with, right? So glad to have those of you who are on here. And I'm going to go a little bit slower than I normally do so that you guys can catch up with me and more people can join. Because this topic is really important, because, if you're wanting to, be able to have a successful business, but also be able to have the free time and the energy to live your life, right? Then you're going to want to pay attention to what I share with you, because a lot of people struggle when it comes to sales. And there are a couple of ways that things get off track. And so what I'm going to share with you is how to be able to close more of the high-end sales in a way that feels natural, in a way that honestly, it feels like by the time you get to the end of the call that the sale is a natural outgrowth of the conversation that you've had, okay? So let's get into it. And I'm also going to teach you this. This is a really important part of this. This is not about using sales scripts. I don't use sales scripts, and I don't teach my clients that. What I'm going to teach you today is a framework. That's what I teach my clients how to use. Now, there are some questions that I like to ask, but I would recommend that you find your own questions. The whole point of this, of using a framework versus a script, is that you want to be able to be present with your prospects. You want people to feel like you are hearing them. You want people to feel that you care, right? If you're reading from a script, it's very difficult to convey that. And I can tell you from personal experience, I was just on a sales call. Someone was selling me, and it was so obvious that this person was reading from a script. So it created a disconnect, right? And so if you don't want to create that disconnect, if you want to be able to powerfully serve people in your breakthrough session and set them up for amazing success, when they become clients, then you're going to want to learn how to do sales in a way that's not manipulative, that doesn't require you to be glued to a script and you have to ask specific questions at specific times and all that kind of stuff, because it does create a disconnect with your prospect. And that's obviously a problem, right? So let's talk about how to do this, all right? There are really 5 areas that you really need to learn how to master. The first area is leadership of the call, right? I know a lot of people will teach, like if you've been in sales trainings before, a lot of people will teach that you get on the call and you try to build rapport. You talk about all kinds of things that are not related to try to warm the person up. That's not the style that I use. My style is different. My style is to go straight to the problem at hand. What is the issue, right? What is the problem that someone is experiencing? Give me 1 second. There we go. What is the problem that the person is experiencing, right? These are some of the things that you want to be thinking about when you are starting your conversation with the person, right? So one of the things that I open my call with is, what inspired you to reach out to have this conversation with me today? What is not working in your business while we're actually talking, right? Because obviously I help people with their businesses. So you might want to start doing things like that, like start your conversation with addressing the problem at hand. Now, for those of you who are afraid of confrontation and you like to kind of tiptoe around the problem, that is your problem, right? If you're wanting to call in your next level clients, these are people who are the top performers, right? Who are going to be willing to invest, anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000, right? These are people who need leadership. They crave it because they are leaders themselves, right? And if you want to be able to help them see that you can help them get to the next level, then you have to assume leadership in the very beginning of the call. Okay, so that's the first thing you really need to learn how to work on. And so I just shared with you one of the things that I say. You're going to want to establish your own way to establish leadership in the call, right? A way that feels right for you, because all of this is really about you showing up fully in your power on the sales call. So that means that you're not going to want to copy my style. You're going to want to do what is authentic and what's true for you, so that you're actually creating connection with your clients, right? Or your prospects who you obviously want to have become clients. So that's the first thing you want to do. You want to establish leadership in the very beginning of the call, right? The second thing that you want to do is you want to spend the majority of that conversation identifying the real challenges that are causing the problem that your prospect is experiencing. And so this is what I mean. For example, when someone comes to me and they're saying to me, well, I'm struggling with leads, I know that that's not the real issue, that there is a root cause that is creating the problem that they're experiencing, right? So you want to be able to, in your conversation with people, and I keep referring to this as a conversation, right? Because that's really what it is. If you relax, if you stop thinking about the sales, you stop worrying about that, you stop obsessing about that, and you just think of it as being a conversation where you're trying to figure out what's going on with this person so that you can actually help them, then that's really what it is, and it takes a lot of that pressure off. So if you've ever felt pressure like, oh my gosh, this person is more successful, or this person is this or that, or whatever the case may be, this can help you relax a little bit, especially when it comes to charging high rent fees, because a lot of people go like this. When they raise their fees and they get on the sales call, they're like, oh my God, I have to be someone different. I've got to kind of stand up on my tippy toes in order to convince this person to buy from me at this price point, right? No, you don't. You just want to relax. You just want to be present with the person. You want to be able to help them articulate the pain. Thanks for the love, by the way. You want to be able to help them articulate the pain, the problem that they're experiencing. You, as the professional, want to get to the root cause of what is creating the issue, so that you're not, proposing Band-Aids, but you really want to be able to, and by the way, you're not actually giving solutions in that sales process, right? You're actually identifying what the real problem is. You can share with them some insight as to what those challenges are and what they need to do to solve it. But obviously, they're not going to solve the problem that they've likely been experiencing for years, right? They're not going to solve that problem in a 45-minute, or 60-minute sales call. It's just not going to happen, right? So but your focus, though, is to help identify what the real issue is, what the real root cause is, because that's how you actually serve people, right? And in that process, as you're doing that, a lot of fears will come up. You will hear, for example, with me, one of the things that, like if someone says to me, well, they're struggling with leads, or, the people that they attract don't want to pay. It's not that the people that they attract don't want to pay. It's because they're struggling with their own sense of value and worth. That's typically the issue, right? And so I know that. And so I'm starting now to look, okay, well, where else is this affecting your life? Where else is this self-doubt, essentially, right? How else is it showing up in your life? Is it showing up in your relationships with your husband or your wife? Is it showing up in your relationship with your kids? Is it showing up in your relationship with your clients, right? So where else is this showing up? That's what I'm diagnosing. That's what I'm identifying in that process of the call, right? Now, after I do that, I shouldn't even say after, because it's actually during the entire process, I'm actually making sure that I reassure people, right? This is one of the critical things I think is missing. The conversation I had last week, or the sales call that I had last week, where someone was trying to sell me, what they were actually doing was trying to break me down, right? Oh, this is the problem, and this is the problem, and this is the problem. Yeah, I'm aware of the fucking problem, right? But in my opinion, the way to actually help a person overcome their fears and feel like they can do or that they can get the results that they're asking you to help them achieve is you've got to build them up in the process, right? So a lot of people focus on breaking people down and pointing out the pain, and like really sticking it to you, but that's not very effective. What's effective is, yes, you must address the pain. Yes, you have to make people aware of the cost of not solving the problem, but you also want to allay their fears. I always say allay, but I think it's allay their fears, right? You want to basically calm them down, reassure them that they can actually achieve the goal. Because if you get people too stuck in the valley, too stuck in the low place, then they're not going to feel that they can actually accomplish the things that they say that they want to accomplish. So this is a very important part or aspect of the sales process, right? And I don't care how successful a person appears to be on the surface, they would not be on the call with you if they were not struggling in some way, right? And if they're struggling in some way, that means they have some fears. And these fears are the very reasons that they need you. These are the very fears that have been holding them back, right? And you need to be able to know how to help them see beyond those fears. You need to know how to reassure them so that they feel that they can actually achieve whatever the goal is that they're telling you that they want to achieve. Because one of the reasons why people do not invest in your programs is because they don't feel like they can get the results. You have to remember, people have been trying to solve their problem before. They have likely tried and failed before, right? So you are not the first expert. You are not the first coach. You are not the first mentor that they've ever spoken to about this particular problem, right? And they still have fears that they need to overcome in order for them to commit to themselves in that conversation to try again, right? You have to understand that part of the process that people are going through and be able to help them through it. Now, this is not about blowing smoke up somebody's ass, okay? This is not about saying, oh my God, you're so awesome. You don't need me. You can do this by yourself. It's not about that, right? Because they obviously need you, right? No matter how awesome they are, they're stuck in a particular area and they need your help and support. So you need to know how to balance the two, right? You need to be able to identify and call out the root cause, help them become aware of the cost of not solving the problem, all those kind of things. And you also need to be able to help reassure them so that they feel confident that even though they failed in the past or some programs have failed them in the past, that they can actually do this. Because if you don't know how to do this, you will get to the end of your call and people just won't buy, right? And you'll be wondering, why the hell did that happen, right? That also helps you with handling objections. We'll talk about that in just a second, all right? So the next phase of the conversation, after you have, established your leadership and the call is going well, right? And you've identified what the root causes are. You've started to identify what some of the costs are. You know what your prospects want instead, because that's obviously a part of what you're doing, right? Because in order for you to really understand the cost, you have to know what people want, right? What's the opposite of the pain that they're in right now? And then you've gone through a lot of the portion of like reassuring people in the conversation. At this point, before you make an offer, you want to really assess whether or not you can help this person and you want to help this person. I think the latter is the thing that you need to focus on the most, right? Because typically you're not going to get to the point of even considering making an offer to someone unless you know for sure you can help them, right? This is why you want to spend so much time identifying what the real issues are to make sure that it's in your wheelhouse, right? So that you can actually properly serve people or powerfully serve people. But this is the most critical thing. You must assess whether or not you actually want to help this person. I say this is critical because so many clients who come to me are coming to me. Another reason why they're frustrated or they're feeling stuck or they're not making the money that they want to make is because they're signing the wrong clients, right? So if you're not pausing here at this part of the conversation to assess whether or not the client that's on the phone with you, whether or not they have the problem that you can solve, if you actually want to help them, right? Because not everybody is going to be where they need to be mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, right? In order to receive the value of what it is that you have to offer. So you have to start thinking beyond, oh yeah, this person can pay me $5,000. Yeah, this person has access to 10K and they can get it, and pay me on the spot. You've got to start thinking beyond that and make sure, I teach my clients how to, develop their client criteria, right? So they know when they're on the call with someone, whether or not this person is the right match for them, right? You want to allow yourself to pause and figure that out. Because if you continue to rush through calls, and I've had many clients who were doing that when they hired me, and I taught them to stop, right? And allow yourself the space to really assess whether or not this is the right client for you. You will be much happier. Your clients that you sign will be much happier because they're going to actually get better results because they are the right fit for you. And you'll actually make more money because you already know from experience, thanks for the love, by the way, you guys already know from experience that when you sign the wrong client, it mentally and emotionally drains you, right? Imagine what that's doing to your sense of confidence and esteem, right? Think about what it's doing to your energy and how that then impacts the other clients that you are responsible to, right? Think about how much money you actually lose when you sign the wrong client. So most people are focused, well, I just need to bring in an extra 5 or 10 or 15K or 20K this month, right? So let me just sign this client because I know I can help this person. But if you know in the back of your mind, you're like, the little voice is telling you, nope, not the right fit. Nope, not going to be a match. Nope, it's going to be too much heavy lifting. And you sign that person anyway, yeah, you may get the 5 or the 10 or the 20 or the 30 or the 50K sale, right? But then think about the term of that engagement, the amount of time you're spending with that person, and how long that person has access to your energy. And if you are not really powerful and strong and standing in your own space there, that person can pull you down, right? And it doesn't necessarily happen overnight, right? It happens over a period of time. And imagine if you have 2 of those types of clients, 3 of those types of clients, 4 of those types of clients. What do you think will happen over the long run, right? What do you think will happen? Think about your own experiences and you know what the answer is, right? So it is so much better for you to have the courage to turn away the wrong prospect so that you can actually create the space for the right ones to show up, because the right ones fill you up. The right ones light you up. The right ones allow you to maintain your energy, right? So that you can actually continue to call in more of the right ones and actually serve the ones that you're already, responsible to even better. But if you're signing clients who are draining you, if you're signing clients who are mentally exhausting you, that will be a problem, right? And just think about not only how it impacts you, mentally and emotionally, but how is that impacting your bank account? How is that impacting the other clients that you have already committed to serving, right? So it's very important that you stop and you assess, is this someone that I want to serve right now? Doesn't mean that they're bad people, just means that maybe they're not where they need to be in order for them to get the best result, working with you. Cool? And you've got to be willing to say no there. You've got to be willing to do it. I've had clients do that, and then they turn around. I mean, I actually had a client. She did that. Like, she allowed herself, because she wasn't doing it before, and she was attracting and signing the wrong clients for a long time, which held her income like really low. And then, I walked her through this because it can be a scary prospect when you feel like, I got to make the sale. I've got to pay my bills and all this other kind of stuff. You have to be willing to do this. So I coached her through it. She actually released a client. So it was somebody that she did make an offer to, but then realized right after she made the offer and signed that person that it wasn't the right fit for her, released that client, and within a week she signed a 30K full pay client who was more than ideal, okay? So know that that's what gets to happen on the other end when you are courageous enough in the moment to let go, right? To say, no, thanks so much, but it's not the right fit, okay? So now we move on to the close, okay? Now, notice I skip over the part about making the offer, because if you do everything right, like in terms of leading the conversation, in terms of really identifying what the root causes are, in terms of, reassuring people, helping them move through their fears and all of that kind of stuff during the call, then they're typically going to be asking you for the sale. Is what happens, 9 out of 10 times, that people are going to ask you for the sale. So then you're getting to the closing piece, right? Where objections come up. You've stated your fee, and whether you feel nervous about it or not because you don't have a big name and you want to charge whatever you want to charge, this is where your stuff can come up, right? This is where if you're getting the same pattern of objections over and over again, you can stop really showing up in your power. And actually, it becomes a disservice not only to you and not making the sale, but it's also a disservice to the client. So this is the point where you don't want to stress. You don't want to go into this place of feeling, overwhelmed. And you don't want to go into the place of being defensive either, right? It's just an extension of the conversation. This is an excellent opportunity, by the way, to, again, move people through their fears so that you set them up for success when they do become a client, right? That's what the close is really about. And when you do this the right way, you won't have to deal with, the sales that don't stick, or when people say yes and then they disappear when it's time to pay the deposit, they don't sign the contract, any of that kind of stuff, right? If you want to be able to close sales in one phone call, and again, these are sales anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 in one call. So no follow-up emails, no I have to chase you and follow up to see if you're still interested. You don't have to do any of that stuff if you do everything that I shared with you in the right way, right? And you allow it to be a conversation that is genuine, a conversation where people can feel that you actually give a damn, right? You're not like glued to the script and you're following, you know what I mean? You're making sure you ask all 10 questions. You don't have to do that, right? You follow the framework that I've shared with you. You allow your natural curiosity about that person to come through. And it's so much easier for you to close these sales. You don't have to go into high pressure. You don't have to go into like memorizing, specific phrases to close and all that kind of stuff. You just need to understand this about the close. Every objection that a person comes up with, it's either reflecting back to you your own beliefs, or it is showing you the pattern that this particular prospect is using to keep themselves stuck, okay? So what it really is telling you, or what it's really doing for you, is giving you feedback. And if you understand that, then it's much easier for you to move through those objections and get people to a full body yes or a full body no. It's fine either way, right? But you do want them to make a decision on that phone call. It's better for them. It's not just about you getting the cash on the call. It's actually better. It's more in service to that prospect, because they're no longer having to think about, worry about, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Which causes just more mental anguish and anxiety and stress. Nobody needs that shit, nor do you need it, right? So it's better to help people get to a decision on the call. And if you can do that, you've powerfully served them, whether or not they say yes to your program or not, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you today in terms of the framework. Hey, Wendy, how are you? Move through. Hey, Melissa, how are you? That's what I wanted to share with you today in terms of the framework. And I mean, I've used this process over and over and over again. And every time I get off the call, it's always a win. It's either a win because I've signed an awesome client who's perfect for me, who I know I can get results for, or it's a win because I've dodged the bullet, because I've recognized that this person is not for me, right? So it's always a win when I end the call. And so you actually probably want to adopt a reframe like that for yourself as well, because I know a lot of people go into like this spin when you don't sign. Thanks for the love. When you don't close the sale, you're like, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. I'm a horrible person. No, you're not, right? If you've done everything that I've shared with you today, if you've led the call in the right way, right? Remember, when we're dealing with higher end clients, when we're dealing with high achievers and high performers, these people crave leadership because they are leaders in their own right. Right? So they're not going to respond to you if you're not leading that call. All right? That's the first thing. You need to also identify the root cause of their problem. You don't want to offer them Band-Aid solutions. You want to help them experience transformation. In order for you to help them experience transformation, you have to go deep in terms of understanding what is the underlying problem that is causing the symptoms that they're experiencing, whether it's in their business, whether it's in their relationships, whether it's in their health. And by the way, you guys, being as smart as you are, know that everything is connected, right? Everything is connected. So even if you're helping someone, improve their health, for example, how does that then have an impact on their relationship, right? Or how does that then have an impact on their business or their career, right? Everything is related, right? You just have this one area that you specialize in, but it's important to realize that everything is related, because you can address those types of things in your sales call. Right? So for example, if you're helping someone who, is having intimacy issues in their relationship, right? Well, if they're having intimacy issues in their relationship, they're probably having intimacy issues in other areas. If they're a business owner, they may be having, a challenge attracting clients, right? So you can use that information, but you can only use it if you properly identify what the real issue is, right? What the real issue is. So all of that matters. Obviously, reassuring people during the process, assessing whether or not they're the right client for you, and then closing the sale, being able to move them through their objections without getting stuck in your own stuff, right? That's how you powerfully serve people. And when you powerfully serve them in the sales call or in that conversation, that breakthrough conversation, guess what? You set them up to be amazing clients, right? because that call is the beginning of the coaching relationship. It's the beginning of the mentorship relationship, right? So it's important that you know how to navigate that call well so that you're setting people up for success on the back end in your program, right? Because if they feel that you really listen to them, if they feel that you really see them in a way nobody else sees them, if they feel that you truly understand what they're struggling with, they're going to trust you more. If they trust you more, they're going to respond to you, more in your program. So they're actually going to get results. Make sense? All right, cool. So does anyone have any questions? Any questions, comments, feedback, anything? Because I really want you guys to get this, right? This is important. Obviously, you're in business. You got to be able to make money, and you've got to be able to close sales so that you can help facilitate transformation for people. That's how you make your impact. So it's important that you guys understand what I've just shared with you today. So does anyone have any questions? Thanks for the love, by the way, and the hearts and all. All right, so if you don't have any questions at the moment, here's what you can do. You can ask them in the Q&A box. If you go back and listen to the replay, just ask them in the Q&A box and I'll get back to you. Okay, wait. So I'm glad you love it, Wendy. Thank you. So Melissa does have a question. You still get stuck on the objections with money. Okay. Amber, I'll get to you in just 1 second. So tell me what you mean when you say you get stuck with the objection around money. Give me some more details around that, Melissa, and I can guide you through that. All right, so Amber. Who isn't getting the sale is, wait, I don't understand. Say that again. So Amber, I'm not sure what you're asking me. Just type it in again. Your issue, not who isn't. I'm not sure what you mean. So clarify that for me and I'll help you. This is really like, I think one of the things that inspired me to actually do this training is because I just had an experience. Like I'm typically not in the market to buy because I've invested in a lot of programs. I've learned a lot and I've got great support around me already. But I happened to be on a sales call last week and I went through and I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Do you know what I mean? This is bad stuff. And so I wanted to be able to create a training that helps people do it in a way that feels more like you, right? Because I could tell that I felt complete disconnect, and I felt that there were times in the conversation where this person was trying to manipulate me, and all of it felt gross, and it was such a turnoff. And I know that if it's a turnoff to me, then it must be a turnoff to you guys, because you guys respond to my messaging and my marketing and all of that kind of stuff. So we're similar in that sense, right? And I know that none of you want your prospects and your future clients to feel like they're being manipulated. None of you guys want to feel like you have to force someone into your program or you have to convince them into your program, because you know that if you have to do any of that stuff, you're going to also have to drag them through your program. And that's not what you want to do, right? You want people coming into your programs committed. You want people coming into your programs, ready to perform, right? And the way that you do that starts I was going to say it starts in the sales conversation, but that's not actually true. It actually starts in your marketing, okay? Your marketing, and well, maybe I'll do a live stream again next week on marketing, how to be more, I like to say how to make your marketing as powerful as you are, right? Because remember what we talked about in today's conversation about people having their fears. Your marketing should also be helping people overcome their fears, right? For them to even get on the phone with you and be open to investing. Right? Because again, people have tried to solve their problem over and over and over again. So they're typically coming to your call feeling skeptical. They're coming to your call feeling disappointed. They're coming to your call feeling let down. They're coming to your call, feeling like they failed too many times. Like all those kind of things are running through their head. So if you can start in your marketing process, in the messaging that you're putting out there, in the value that you're giving out into the world, right? If you can start there building people up, by the time they get to the sales call, they're already more kind of like softened on some of their resistance. So it's much easier for you to help them through the process. So let's see. All right. So Melissa, so is the objection, it's too expensive, or I need to discuss with my spouse? Okay. So here's what I would ask you, Melissa. Do you feel like it's too expensive? Do you feel like your offer is too expensive? Because I'm imagining that particular objection is a reflection of what your own thoughts are. The second objection about I need to discuss with my spouse, that's a person who is not really standing in her power, right? So then I would check in with yourself. Where are you maybe still not standing in your power, right? Because from the objections that you're sharing with me, that's what I'm picking up, right? That these are actually reflections of what's going on with you, right? So if you work that out, if you work on, you know, I always say to people, you don't want to just position yourself in the marketplace. You want to position yourself from the inside out, meaning you need to be sold on what it is that you do and the value of it before you try to sell that to somebody else. Now, I know, Melissa, that you're sold on what you do. You may not be sold on the value, right? And so you're going to have to do work on that so that when people get on the phone with you and you move them through this process, that they see the value as a no-brainer. Because from what I know about the program, it is a fucking no-brainer, right? But you've got to believe that, right? You've got to own that in order for people to get on the phone with you and say, oh yeah, I mean, I charge, you know, I have programs that are 10 times more than what you're charging. And I don't have people telling me that it's too expensive. There was a time though, when I did have that experience, right? And that when I had that experience, it was because I was, you know, drowning in my own doubt, wondering why would anybody pay this, right? So really look at, you know, your feelings about the price of your program, because that will influence. You have to remember, part of, when I talk about the sales process, part of what you're doing is you want a real conversion. You're wanting people to drop their disempowering beliefs, so their fears and all the shit that's been getting in their way for a long time, for your empowering beliefs, right? Because you're coming to them with a different energy, you're coming to them with a different perspective, right? And obviously with a solution. So you have to know that there are going to be people who are going to show up and they're going to have resistance and they're going to have questions or they're going to have doubts. So you have to be really strong in your position in order to help them release their fears and doubts. But if you're feeling unsure, right, then you can't move them over that hump. You can't move them through it because you're feeling unsure, right? This is why you being confident is so important. This is why you being convicted and standing in the value of your offer is so important. Because when you do that, there will not be a question on your price, right? And if there was, if someone were to say it's too expensive, a great question to say is expensive compared to what? You know, when I used to get that objection, I would say something like that, right? Because you want to make sure that people are not comparing apples to oranges, right? That's something that you can say. But another thing is, if somebody were to say it's too expensive, and you feel triggered by that, or you back down from that, you don't challenge that statement, then it's also an indication that you're not feeling very confident in your fee, right? Because if somebody were to say to me today that it's too expensive, it wouldn't bother me. I'd be like, okay, well, you're just not my ideal client, right? I wouldn't even get hung up on there, right? Or I might say, like I just said, you know, expensive compared to what, challenge them on that or whatever, because the bottom line is, it's certainly, you know, what I'm charging is not cheap, but compared to, you know, another year, 2, 5, 10 years of that client, you know, experiencing the same hell that they're in right now, no, I'm a bargain, right? And I totally get that. So you want to make sure that you get that for yourself. Make sense? And again, that piece about, you know, needing to discuss with their spouse, that's a person who's not taking responsibility for their own choices. They're not willing to stand in their own power, right? So challenge them on that. Why are they still willing to give their power away, right? That's an underlying pattern. It's an underlying cause of the problem that they're experiencing. Cool? All right. So, Amber. So, my issue isn't with the sales calls. It's with getting qualified prospects. Okay. So, if the issue isn't within getting qualified prospects, 2 things. What's going on within you? Where are you creating some resistance around that? Or where are you not clear in terms of who your ideal clients are? And then second, you know, what do you need to shift in your marketing so that you can actually bring in more qualified prospects? Okay, that's what I would suggest for you. All right, so Melissa says the process is becoming more natural. That's the catching point. Yes, no manipulating. Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Cool. All right, good. So I'm glad you guys got some value. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to post them in the comments, and I will tag me so that I know to come back and then respond. And then I hope you guys go out there and you close some sales, right? It's not, I mean, there was a time, like I said, when I was promoting this live stream, I was so freaking scared of making sales that I literally was talking people out of it. And not always with my words, by the way. Sometimes our energy will do that. That's why it's very important for you to manage your energy, because we can also send double binding messages if our energy is not clear, if we're in resistance, if we're in conflict, or any of that kind of stuff, right? So there were many times when my mouth was saying, yes, you should invest, but I know everything else was saying, no, 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 because I was afraid, right? So what I really want you guys to get out of this entire training today is that there is nothing to be afraid of. When you show up on that call truly in service to your prospects, there is not a fucking thing to be afraid of, because you have to remember the person on the other side is more afraid than you are, right? Because whatever it is that they're up against, whatever it is that they're reaching out to you to help them solve, that is scaring the living daylights out of them, right? They're either afraid that, you know, they're going to continue to get sicker, right? Their health is going to continue to decline. They're afraid that they're going to lose their job. They're afraid that they're going to lose their partner, right? Their marriage or whatever. They're afraid that they're going to lose their business. They're afraid of so many things that are causing them to not sleep, right? That's causing them to either gain or lose weight. That's causing them to, you know, not really have a social life. Maybe they're not dating. Maybe they're not, you know, engaging in sex. Like, there's so many things that they're afraid of. And if you can remember that, right, instead of allowing your fears to get in the way, if you can remember that these people are in pain and these people are afraid, it is so much easier for you to show up and really serve them, right? It's only when we get stuck in our own stuff, when we say, oh my gosh, you know, like for example, with the money piece, if you're worried about it being too expensive, right, you can't really be in service to your prospect because you're so nervous that, oh my God, I got to talk about the money piece and they're going to think it's too expensive, right? You can't really be present as you need to be with them so that you can actually get them over that whole money objection if you're so focused on it, if you're so worried about it. So if you can remember that these are people who are coming to you because they're in pain, right, and they desperately need your help, it's much easier for you to relax in that conversation and actually serve them, right? And again, if you do everything that I've shared with you, people will be asking you for the sale. That's been my experience. It's been my client's experience. And it, you know, it just works out, right? Because that's a person who is now committed. And what people are looking for, obviously we know that nobody wants to be sold to, but they do want the solution. What they're looking for is to know that they're on the phone with someone. At least this has been my experience and how I actually like to feel when I'm on a sales call. If I know that I'm on the phone with someone who can hear me, who can see me, who I can trust, will lead me to the solution and help me through it, I'm all in, right? And I'm sure you know that from your own experience in terms of what you're looking for. So if you just reverse that and you provide the same space for your own prospects, they're all in. You don't have to worry about the fee. The fee is a non-issue. They will fucking figure it out. That's not your concern, right? They will figure out how to make it work, right? Okay, cool. Okay. Amber, thank you. I feel like my marketing is way better since the event. Yay! So Amber's talking about my mastermind event. We did a whole thing on marketing. So that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. Hey, is it Julianne? No worries. Just go back and catch the replay. It was really great content. So go back and catch the replay, but you'll get what you need. And if you have questions, just ask me after you watch the replay. All right, cool. All right, ladies, so glad you guys were here. Hope you got tremendous value. If you know anyone who is looking for more of this kind of support, if it's you yourself, go to DesireeStafford.com/session and let's talk about how you can, number one, create the packages that you can sell from $10,000 to $100,000. And then also we can talk about the marketing strategy behind that and the sales calls, you know, how to run those behind that as well. And also if you know anyone who would benefit from being in this group and the content that I share in this group, please feel free to invite them to join, you know, have them come and watch this, this live stream, right? Because the more that you can understand this process, right? And again, let me just I just want to share one more thing about why I don't use scripts. Because I find that scripts, number one, create a disconnect between you and your prospect. That's the number one reason that it's such a turn off to me. It's so obvious when someone's reading a script, in my opinion, right? So if someone is reading a script, how are they actually present and connected with me, right? They can't be. because they're obsessed with, okay, I got to ask this question, then I got to ask this one. You don't need to do that, right? And that also creates a level of stress for you as the person trying to, help guide the prospect, right? Because you're obsessed, you're stressed about, making sure you ask the question in the right way and all this other kind of stuff, right? So it's a disservice to you, and it's also a disservice to the prospect. However, another thing that I don't like about scripts is that you can lock yourself in. So if you're focused on following the script to a T and moving from question to question to question as laid out for you in the script, it leaves you no room to actually ask the questions that would help you get to the root cause of what's going on with your prospect, right? Because you have to remember, the conversation that you're in with the prospect is a living, breathing thing, right? So it can go in so many different directions. And if you feel attached to a script, it's going to be difficult for you to navigate that conversation in a confident way that actually helps you get to what is going on with that prospect, right? If you have to move through a set of 10 or 15 questions in a particular order, guess what? You don't have the freedom to be curious, to ask the questions that will lead you to the actual answer that you're seeking, so that you know whether or not you can help this person, so that you understand what's actually going on with that person, right? So that's why I use a framework versus a script and a set of questions. Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right, cool. Make that money, Amber. That's right. All right, guys. Glad you were here. Hope you got tremendous value. If you want to talk to me about making more money and increasing your impact, all that kind of good stuff, go to DesireeStafford.com/session and let's have a conversation. And until we do speak, I hope you're up to big, bold things in your life and in your business. Take care.